Well, we're about to come into the last weekend of pool matches in this year's 2023 Rugby World Cup from France, and it's getting very exciting. There's a few teams that could get knocked out this weekend, so we'll have to see how that goes. Now this weekend on Thursday the games start, and the Kiwis, yes, the New Zealand All Blacks, are leading us off again this weekend, and they're playing Uruguay in their last pool game of the championship, and it's going to be a really interesting game. And I'm going to do a preview of that game right here in this video. Hello and welcome to Inside Rugby. If you haven't been here before, my name is Mark. I'm a Kiwi rugby fan living in beautiful Cancun in Mexico, and I'm making a bunch of videos about the sport that I love, rugby union. Now, I have plans to grow this channel over the coming months and years, and you can help me if you want to, because I want to get to know the state of rugby in your country. So if you're watching this video from all over the world and you're in a rugby playing nation, then I would like to meet people in your country, talk about rugby and understand what's going on so that we can all grow this beautiful game together. So if that's something that appeals to you, then reach out and let me know. As I say, I have big plans for this channel. I just started it as a hobby 3 months ago, and I'm really enjoying it. So I've decided to put my passion for rugby behind trying to help the game grow across the world. Now, I'm here in Mexico, and not many people have even heard of the Rugby World Cup. So it's quite interesting talking to people around the streets of the city where I live to get them to know a little bit more about what's going on, so we can all do a little bit to get this beautiful game to a wider audience, and that's my goal. Okay, All Blacks versus Uruguay. Now, Uruguay haven't announced their team at the time that I'm making this video, so I've taken a bit of a guess on who I think is going to be lining up for Uruguay this weekend. But the All Blacks have announced their team, and I'm going to go through that team in this video and give you my ideas around this game. Now, many people will think that this is going to be an easy win for the All Blacks. They need to win by 4 tries or a bonus point to secure their final spot in that knockout stage of the competition, and I think most people watching this video probably will think that the All Blacks will do that no trouble at all. Now, in terms of their selection, it's an opportunity for Ian Foster, Jason Ryan and Joe Schmidt to put in a experimental team. I guess there's a couple of players that I think are on the verge of that #1 team that the All Blacks want to go into the knockout stage with, and I think they're going to give them a bit of a run this weekend to see how they go. So why don't we have a look at the All Blacks team for this game against Uruguay. Now, starting off in the backs, and it's a fairly interesting back three for the All Blacks in this game. They've gone with Damian McKenzie at fullback, and I think they're just trialling him to see the versatility that he can bring, perhaps off the bench, as we saw in that last game against Italy. But this time he's going to get a start at fullback. On the wings, we've got Will Jordan and Lester Fainga'anuku, and it's great to see Lester back in this team. I'm a big fan of Lester Fainga'anuku. I think he brings something big and dynamic to this All Black back three, and it's going to be good to see how he goes against Uruguay. Will Jordan, I still don't think he's reached his peak at this year's tournament. Unfortunately, he was playing great rugby in the Rugby Championship. He hasn't quite hit that top level, I think, yet, but he did play really well against Italy, so I expect him to have another big game against Uruguay. So there we go, that's the All Blacks back three in this game against Uruguay. McKenzie at fullback, Lester Fainga'anuku and Will Jordan on the wings. Now moving into the centres for the All Blacks, and we have Anton Lienert-Brown at outside centre and Jordie Barrett at inside centre. Now remember, Jordie Barrett came back against Italy from that injury that he had a really good game. I thought he slotted straight back in there, no problem at all. And I think they're just giving him more game time to get him ready for that knockout stage of the tournament. Anton Lienert-Brown back in there again, and I don't think he's going to be the first choice in the All Blacks knockout stage of this tournament. I think Rieko Ioane's got that one pretty much sewn up, but let's see how Anton Lienert-Brown, probably another player who hasn't reached his optimal level so far for the All Blacks in this tournament. Let me know what you think of the centre pairing in this game against Uruguay. Anton Lienert-Brown and Jordie Barrett. Now the half pairing in this game gets me a little bit excited, because we're going to see Cam Roigard at halfback for the All Blacks with Richie Mo'unga, and we haven't seen this combination working a lot together, so it's going to be very interesting to see how they go. I really like Cam Roigard. I rate the guy highly, and I think he's going to be the next generation of halfback for the All Blacks when Aaron Smith moves on. And I think he brings a really interesting running game for the All Blacks. He's a bigger guy as well, and we've already seen in the times that he has come on in this year's Rugby World Cup, he's taking it to the defensive line and been very, very good. So expect him to have another big game. Richie Mo'unga, well, been extremely good with the boot in this year's Rugby World Cup. Expect him to carry on that. And he's really playing that role without people noticing too much that he's there, but he's doing a fantastic job. And if your player's there doing a great job and you don't notice him, then you know that he's on point. So there we go. That's the All Blacks backline for this game against Uruguay. And then coming in off the bench, we've got Finlay Christie, the reserve halfback, and we've got Beauden Barrett, and we've got Caleb Clark, who hasn't seen a lot of game time at this year's Rugby World Cup, and he was probably one of those players, for me anyway, that was on the fringe of even making it to this year's competition. So the All Blacks have a very strong backline, both the starting backline as well as the bench to come on, and I expect them to do the job comfortably against this Uruguay team. Now let's take a look at the forwards for the All Blacks in this game. And they've got a couple of interesting things going on in the forwards for this game. First of all, starting at number 8, Luke Jacobson comes in at number 8. Ardie Savea getting a bit of a well-deserved rest in this game. And then we have Sam Cane starting after his back injury. He's back into this starting lineup for the All Blacks and will be the captain of the All Blacks in this particular game. On the other flank, we have Shannon Frizzell, who's coming back from injury as well. So both him and Kane are getting some good quality game time before we head into the knockout stage of this year's Rugby World Cup. Going to be watching Luke Jacobson at number 8 and see how he goes in that position. Should be a good hit out for him. Then we go to the locks, and Sam Whitelock takes all the news again for the All Blacks this week. It's his 150th cap for the All Blacks, and it's going to be his 23rd game at a Rugby World Cup, which is now a world record. And Sam Whitelock deserves all the plaudits he gets for being such a talisman for the All Blacks in that position. And in this game, he's going to be partnered up with Tupou Vai, and they're going to be taking it to this Uruguay team. So expect Whitelock and Vai to have a really big game for the All Blacks, winning tons of ball. So now we move into the front row for the All Blacks, and interesting front row. We've got Tyrell Lomax back in from injury. He's had a couple of opportunities now to get back in and getting some game time. Cody Taylor's going to be the hooker, and Tuanga Fassi is going to be the other prop in this game. So a very good front row for the All Blacks. Expect them to be technically very sound at scrum time, and expect them to do well on the lineouts as well. I think there might be some All Black lineout trickery going on in this game, so just watch out for that. Could be quite interesting. So a very solid front row and also overall pack for the All Blacks going into this game. I expect them to be very, very strong against this Uruguay team, and also very, very fast at the breakdown. Expect Sam Cane to get back to his best in this game, and also Shannon Frizzell. I think the All Blacks are going to be dominating in that breakdown area, and they're going to have to keep on top of this Uruguay team. Okay, moving on to the All Black forward reserves and just checking them out. We've got Takiaho, we've got Tamati Williams, we've got Fraser Newell, we've got Scott Barrett, and we've got Ethan Blackadder, who's come in as a replacement in this All Black team, and he's getting his first run in this year's Rugby World Cup. Very, very good player, Blackadder, of course, a Crusader, and getting his chance. So going to be really watching him and see how he goes in this game. He's a good option for the All Blacks. So a good reserve bench. I don't think Takiaho has found his straps at this year's Rugby World Cup. He was playing brilliant rugby last year. He's just gone off the boil just a fraction. It makes a difference at this level, doesn't it, when you're not right up to that 100%. But it's good to have a guy like him coming in off the bench as well. Fraser Newell, of course, getting a chance on the bench, and Tamati Williams, young big guy from New Zealand, getting an opportunity to come in that propping position. And this Rugby World Cup will be the making of this young guy. He's going to go on and do great things as an All Black in the future, I have no doubt about it. So a very strong New Zealand outfit across the whole field, and I expect them to be too strong for Uruguay, but they're going to have to play good rugby, and they're going to have to be on song and come in with the kind of attitude that they had against Italy, and they should do pretty. So coming into this game, the All Blacks thumped Italy 96-17, of course, in that game last week, and we saw Uruguay come back from being behind against Namibia to take that game 36-26, and that was a really interesting outcome, I thought, in that game. Namibia were playing quite well until they ran into a few disciplinary issues and also injuries, and then we saw Uruguay come back into that game. It can be a little bit dangerous, so the All Blacks are going to have to keep the pedal on the metal throughout this game and respect the Uruguayan rugby team, because they're another one of these South American nations that are making big strides at this year's Rugby World Cup and making their presence found, and I think they're well led and they've got some exciting players in their team. Now, as I said, they haven't officially announced their team for this game at the time I'm making this video, so I'm going to have a bit of a guess, and let's have a look at a prospective team that I think are going to run on the field for Uruguay this weekend. And starting off in their back line, and at fullback, Amasia, who's been playing really well, and on the wing, Basso and Freitas, and they've all been playing well in this year's Rugby World Cup. I've been really impressed with Amasia at fullback. He's done some really good things on attack, and he's also big on defence for this team. Freitas has been really good. He's made some good breaks in the games that they played, scored some tries, and he's also very good in defence. So expect these guys to give it their all up against this very classy and fast All Black outfit. So in the centres, I think Uruguay are going to go with Perez and Velasica. They're the two ones that played against Namibia and did a very good job, so expect them to come in and be the centres in this game. And Perez is good at finding a break, so expect him to have a go at Anton Leonard-Brown and Geordie Barrett in the centres for New Zealand. I think he's going to find it a little bit difficult to get through them, but he might be able to go around them, so let's see what he does. Perez at outside centre for Uruguay, I think, for this game. And then for the number 9 and 10 combination in this game for Uruguay, I don't think they can go past Arata at 9 and Echeverry at number 10. They've been very good for Uruguay throughout this tournament. Echeverry is one of those guys that when he's on, he's very good, and when he's off, he can be pretty poor. So I hope he has a good game against the All Blacks and doesn't get too pressured, because I'd like to see the talent that this guy has. He's running the ball more, and he's pretty good with the boot as well. So let's hope that Echeverry has a good game for Uruguay at number 10. Okay, having a look at the back three that I think Uruguay are going to pick for this game. Duas at number 8, Savetta and Adeo are going to be the flankers, and I think they've been pretty consistent for Uruguay throughout this Rugby World Cup, and I'd like to see them get a run against the All Blacks and see what they can do. Savetta's been very good, and expect him to give a competition at the breakdowns to Sam Cane and Shannon Frizzell. So Leon Decker and Aliaga, I think, are going to be the locks for Uruguay in this game. And Leon Decker, huge giant of a man, and expect him to try and do very well for Uruguay in the lineouts. They're going to have to be on point with their throwing into the lineouts, and that's a bit of a problem they've had so far throughout this tournament. Expect the All Blacks to try and disrupt their lineout from Uruguay and steal some ball, and Sam Whitelock and Tupou Vai are going to be absolutely trying to do that. So Leon Decker and Aliaga will probably be the two locks, I think, that Uruguay pick for this game. So looking at the front row, I think Uruguay are going to pick Abello, Kessler and Sanguinetti, I think, is going to be the front row for Uruguay. They did a pretty good job on Namibia, but this is going to be a different test for them altogether against the All Blacks front row of Lomax, Taylor and Tuangafasi. But let's see what Uruguay do. They're going to have to get that technical part of their game right and make sure they go into those scrums without putting the power on too soon. Otherwise, Wayne Barnes, the referee of this game, is going to penalise them. So discipline is going to be a big issue, I think, for Uruguay in this team. If the All Blacks come out firing and put a lot of pressure on them, we may see the Uruguayan discipline start to unravel. So looking at the Uruguay bench, looking pretty strong. They've gone with a combination of 5-3. The backs include Alonso. He's pretty good coming in off the bench and will give them a little bit of bite. In the forwards off the bench, Rusi, Rodriguez and Dos Santos are going to come on and give Uruguay a bit of punch as well. But I think the All Blacks are going to be too strong across the field for this Uruguayan team. So there we go. That's what I think the Uruguayan team's going to look like. We'll have to wait and see when they confirm their team ahead of this match. Now, so far in this tournament, the All Blacks have scored 180 points compared to 65 of Uruguay. So the All Blacks attacking force has been on song, and of course they've only had to play the teams that have been put in front of them, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens against Uruguay. On the defensive line, the All Blacks have shed 47 points compared to Uruguay conceding 91. So it appears as though the All Blacks defence has also been playing better than Uruguay at this year's Rugby World Cup. I think this is going to be an interesting game. I think the All Blacks are going to go again for that first 20-minute dominance, set themselves up in this game, put the pressure on Uruguay, get them rattled, try and get them undisciplined as well, so we see some problems with Uruguay. And I think the All Blacks are going to be using Mackenzie from number 15 to try and make some statements out wide, coming in and connecting with both Leicester Fainga'a-Nuku and Will Jordan off the wings. I think that's where the All Blacks are going to centre their attack. But don't be surprised that in the beginning they go through the forwards and they use some really good pick and rolls to try and put the Uruguayans under a lot of pressure around the rucks and the mauls. I could see the All Blacks trying that strategy against Uruguay. Now Uruguay have some talent in this team. Ameisha, of course, I've mentioned, Echeverry, and also Freitas on the wing. Arata is also very good at halfback. So expect these guys to really give it a go against the All Blacks, and they'll be one of those teams that are looking forward to playing the All Blacks, and some of these players will never get that opportunity again. So it's a fantastic opportunity for them to leave everything on the field, and I'm sure they'll give it their very best for 80 minutes. But I suspect the All Blacks are going to be too strong in this game for Uruguay and probably get away with an easy 4-try win and secure that bonus point so they can go through the knockout stage. I don't think the All Blacks are going to have one eye on that knockout stage yet. I think they're going to come in very focused on this game. They've had a 1-week turnaround since that thrashing of Italy, and I think the boys are up for it to give Uruguay a bit of a hard time. Uruguay, on the other hand, I think will be trying to keep the scoreboard respectable and also trying to put together some points against this All Black team. So possession and territory are going to be important for both teams, and when they get down into each other's halves, expect them to try and go for points. So expect Echeverry to try and get some penalties if the All Blacks are undisciplined in their own half. And when the All Blacks get down onto attack, expect them to be kicking the ball into touch, trying their line out mauls and going for scrum domination and putting wide passes together. Watch out for the kick pass from Richie Mo'unga out to Will Jordan and Leicester Fainga'a-Nuku. I think that'll come into play in this game, and we might see some spectacular tries from the All Blacks. But the first thing is they need to win this game. They need to do it comprehensively, and I'm sure before we start to see the razzle-dazzle stuff, we'll see the All Blacks playing a very structured and a very fast-paced game against Uruguay. Now for me, this whole tournament starts in the knockout stage, and I've been making a lot of question marks around the All Blacks' performance as they go forward. And even though I suspect they'll have a comfortable win against Uruguay, I still have not removed my doubts about this All Black team and what they could possibly do against Ireland. So first of all, we need to see Ireland win against Scotland and make sure they're secured in getting into the next round, which I'm sure they will, and I'll be making a preview video about that game coming up this weekend. As I said, we've got a fantastic weekend coming up again at this year's Rugby World Cup, and I'll be making previews of those main games that we're going to see this weekend. Japan and Argentina is another one that comes to mind. So there we go, that's the All Blacks team for this game against Uruguay. It's my Uruguayan question mark team of who I think they will put out. So let me know what you think about this game. Do you think it's going to be a walk in the park for the All Blacks? Or do you think Uruguay is going to put up some good competition for the All Blacks and maybe keep them at bay for a little while and perhaps put even some pressure on them at times throughout this game? I'd really like to hear your comments and thoughts on that one. Okay, that's it for me in this particular video. Don't forget, I'm going to be back here on Inside Rugby for all the weekend and covering the games. So please, if you can, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. And leave me a comment and give this video a thumbs up as well. It all helps, apparently, according to this YouTube algorithm thing that I'm still learning about. So there we go. Thanks very much. It's great to have you with us, and keep enjoying your rugby. Stay well, stay safe, everybody, and I'll see you again really soon right here on Inside Rugby. Until then, bye for now.